This is the Pick Six Podcast, and we are live in Las Vegas, Super Bowl 58. That handsome devil is Will Brinson. That other handsome devil is John Breech. I'm Ryan Wilson, and we're here all week. Today, however, we're ranking our favorite storylines of Super Bowl 58, which you might have heard, Breech, is a rematch of Super Bowl 54. By the way, this episode of Pick Six and all our big game coverage is brought to you by the creamy deliciousness of peanut M&Ms, the perfect treat for those moments when you need a little added comfort. All right, boys, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle, they're all back, but there are some new faces too. Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and of course, Breech's favorite artist, Taylor Swift, all making their first Super Bowl appearances. So let's get to it. 8 storylines to look ahead to this week's Super Bowl 58. Let's start with Kyle Shanahan. Brinson, you and I had similar takes on Mr. Shanahan here. Goes back to the Super Bowl that the Atlanta Falcons somehow lost to the Patriots 28-3. We've talked about that to death, but that's going to be a talking point this week. Shanahan was, of course, the offensive coordinator of that Falcons team. Then 4 years ago when these teams met, the Chiefs and the old 49ers, they were up 20-10 in the fourth quarter and then got outscored, didn't score another point. Shanahan and the 49ers lost that game. Jimmy G was, of course, the quarterback. So I'll ask you, Brinson, and then you can sort of expound as it relates to your big storyline. Is this the year that Kyle Shanahan finally gets over the hump?
Well, let's not forget that the 49ers had a 10-point lead against the Rams in the NFC Championship as well against my guy Matthew Stafford. They gave that up. So, we talk about I think Kyle Shanahan, and this is part and parcel because of, the fact that his dad, Mike Shanahan, should be a Hall of Fame coach. He's not in somehow, 2 Super Bowls with John Elway. But because of that, because of him being a successful head coach, a successful offensive coordinator, and us focusing on his performance in big games, we sort of moved the goalpost a bit, right? It's like Kyle can't win big games, but it's also like Kyle can't play when he's not ahead. And, it's like, to which, Kyle wins a lot of games. I think the circumstances have just been bad for him. I don't know that this is necessarily the best matchup possible when it comes to San Francisco figuring out a way to win the big game, though. I mean, Kansas City was a 3 seed. I think if you'd said before the season, who do you not want to see, the answer would be Kansas City. But then once we got to Christmas and they played the Ravens, who absolutely stomped them, I think the answer was probably Baltimore, or maybe even Buffalo at some point when Buffalo got hot. But now, 2 games into the playoffs, the Chiefs are white hot, and Kyle Shanahan, there is no question about it. Hands down, Breech, no one in this entire game, this entire week, has more pressure on them than Kyle Shanahan when it comes to winning this Super Bowl, because he has lost in the biggest spots frequently, and Patrick Mahomes simply hasn't.
Yeah, what's funny is that he actually reminds me of Andy Reid from 5 years ago when, hey, look, Andy Reid went to 4 straight NFC title games with the Eagles, would make the playoffs every year with the Chiefs before the arrival of Patrick Mahomes, but he could not win the big game. And we would sit here and talk about all the bad decisions he would make down the stretch and his clock management issues, and then got his quarterback, got over the hump, won that Super Bowl. And now you really don't hear people complaining about Andy Reid all that much anymore. And that's really what it feels like Kyle Shanahan is, because look, the Falcons Super Bowl loss might not be his fault, but that team scored 0 points in the fourth quarter of that game. That's a factor. He's the offensive coordinator. The Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs might not be his fault, but again, that team scored 0 points in the fourth quarter of that game. And as you said, Brinson, also the blown lead in the NFC title game 2 years ago. So there is the monkey's on his back. So I absolutely agree that he is the person who probably needs this win more than that.
Yeah, and I would just add, too, that, I made the point with Andy Reid that he reminded me a lot of Phil Mickelson winning a major, where Phil needed to win that first major, and then you get this flood of wins in these big spots that comes out because he no longer has the pressure of that. And you sort of think, that same thing happened with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You win that first one, and then all of a sudden you're just back in the Super Bowl almost every year. And I sort of wonder if Kyle Shanahan, you win the first one, could there be a sort of a run of Super Bowls on the horizon? I think it's at least possible to see a run of appearances if that's the case.
Yeah, worth mentioning to follow up on Brinson's Fig Jam point there. This is the 8th Super Bowl rematch, 4th head coach matchup with multiple Super Bowl meetings. Unfortunately for Kyle Shanahan, in each of the previous 3 instances, the head coach to win the first matchup also won the second matchup. There's been a repeat winner in 5 of the previous 7 instances of teams meeting in the Super Bowl for 7 times. So that perhaps has something to do with the pressure with which Kyle Shanahan, at least we think he's probably feeling. We'll see how that plays itself out. Breech, one of your storylines was with a win, does Andy Reid become a top 5 coach or even a top 3 coach all time? Make your point on what you're trying to get to with that.
Well, look, we've already talked about how Andy Reid got the monkey off his back, and then Brinson brought up the Phil Mickelson syndrome, where once you got that first win, now you're getting a lot of wins. If you go in there, you win your 3rd Super Bowl. You know who else has 3 Super Bowl wins? Bill Walsh. I mean, we're talking about an all-time great. You know who has more than 3 Super Bowl wins? Chuck Noll, Bill Belichick. So we're talking about just this incredibly short list of head coaches that have been able to win 3 Super Bowls. And you throw Joe Gibbs also won 3. And so that the list is so short that, I think we would probably all agree that Andy Reid's probably a top 10 coach in NFL history now, but he is, maybe Brinson doesn't, but I just think the way
top 5
coaching and the rate they're winning is that not only could we be talking about him as a top 5 coach, if he were to retire after this season, if they won the Super Bowl, that I think he's up there and that he's certainly in the conversation. And if he doesn't retire, which I don't think he will, because I think he is going to try and stick around as long as Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback, he might get to the all-time wins record before Bill Belichick. I mean, at the rate things are going, especially if Belichick is out of the NFL next year, he's going to pick up 15 wins on him. So you throw that in there, and man, it's looking like Andy Reid is maybe the best coach of his generation if he comes through with another Super Bowl or 2.
Well, and you look at guys like Sean Payton and Mike Tomlin, really, really great head coaches, but only won a single Super Bowl, right? And I think you make the I sort of had Andy Reid pegged as a top 5 coach already, but I'm sure I guess I need to do that in my do the actual math, right? I mean, Belichick, Don Shula are 1 and 2. Does that seem fair? Lombardi,
Walsh.
I mean, is Andy Reid better than those guys? Wilson, I feel like, if you win your 3rd Super Bowl and you went to all those NFC title games, when like the NFC was like, I mean, the Panthers were really good then. They made a Super Bowl. You had the Buccaneers, obviously, were a great team. The Eagles were fantastic, of course, but I mean, there are a lot of great teams. The Rams had some run there. There were a lot of great teams in the NFC in that era, and it felt like Andy Reid got everybody's best game in the NFC Championship. And this is a guy who now, he's been to 12 in the championship games. I mean, he's been every year that Patrick Mahomes has been his starter, and he's also the guy who cultivated this talent, possibly the greatest quarterback of all time. Wilson, would you say he's top 5 or top 10?
Well, as I was thinking about it, I'm a little older than you boys. So Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Jimmy Johnson. There are a lot of names that you have to sort of give some serious consideration to. My favorite coach growing up, Breech, Forrest Gregg, who coached your dad. He's not in the conversation, but I did like him. He did a lot with those Bengals teams. But I think we got to go through and give it. Like, you have to bring Prisco on and get his thoughts, because he was alive and kicking when those guys were coaching. So I get it. Like, you're not going to get a lot of pushback from me. What Andy Reid's done has been nothing short of amazing. I mean, he got fired and run out of town in Philadelphia for a reason. So for him to sort of rediscover himself, and you could say Patrick Mahomes did it, but that team with Alex Smith was a really good football team as well. So I get it. Like, you're not going to get much pushback from me on that one.
And 11 conference title games, Brinson, that was the number you were looking for. 2nd most NFL history behind only Belichick.
Yep. I would say he's top 5. And I think you have to squeeze somebody out that also projects a little bit moving forward, I think. But definitely.
All right. This sort of piggybacks off of that. And I mean, if we're all on board with the Andy Reid stuff, this feels like a slam dunk. Chiefs dynasty. Let's start here. Brinson, if they don't win Chiefs dynasty, because I think the answer, if they do win, we know what it is. So Chiefs dynasty, if they don't win, if they do win, had the dynasty already started? Let's go with that.
Yeah, so Prisco was on the podcast last week talking about this, and he's like, I love dynasty talk. I love it. It's great. Dynasty talk. It's a weird thing to love, but cool. And he had the Chiefs. Yeah, he did. He says, my precious dynasty. He had the Patriots 1, Steelers Steel Curtain 2, and then he put the Chiefs at 3, I believe, right? Breech ahead of Shula, the Dolphins. Basically, the idea, if they win, of course, the idea being that you win 3 Super Bowls in this 6-year span when you've got Patrick Mahomes. You're 2 plays away from him going to the Super Bowl every year of his career as a starter, which is I mean, just outrageous. I mean, they lose by 3 to the Bengals, right? And then 6 to the Patriots or 7 to the Patriots on the D Ford offsides thing. I mean, it's ridiculous how good they've been. And if they win this one against the Niners, it's like they've got a real decent shot at taking out Belichick and Brady as the greatest dynasty of all time.
So, Breech, are they a dynasty right now, even before this game starts?
I do not. I mean, man, 4 Super Bowls in 5 years is pretty insane. But I think my threshold for dynasty is you have to win 3 of them. So this is the dynasty starter or dynasty builder. But if they lose this, get back next year and win that, then that's the dynasty starter. But they are on the cusp of a dynasty. And if they win just one more in the next 2 or 3 years, whether that's this year, next year, the year after that, then I think they're a dynasty.
Well, I think remember the Patriots. Oh, sorry. I was going to say the Patriots won 3 of their first 4. Brady wasn't playing at this level that Patrick Mahomes was playing at. If they win 3 of their first, 3 out of the first 6 years of Tom Brady's career, that's kickstarting a dynasty. Like we would think back to this time frame and say the Chiefs, like the Legion of Boom, were a borderline dynasty. If they win that second Super Bowl, they probably qualify. I do agree with you, Breech. Like 5 years, 3 titles seems like the right fit. But I mean, this Chiefs team, Wilson, 3 titles in 6 years. That's a dynasty for me.
I'm thinking about the Seattle team that you're talking about. In the moment, it did sort of feel like a dynasty, but the other cautionary tale is that they fell right off a cliff for various reasons. And what I was going to say is that you've talked about how the Patriots, the Chiefs can flip a switch offensively. And look, they only scored 17 points against the Ravens, none in the second half, but they made some plays they hadn't made earlier. The defense is the difference. And the point is that they're winning in different ways, which makes me feel they're a little more versatile in terms of their chasing of a dynasty. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid help, but I think this team feels like, they feel like a dynasty already because of those 2 guys we talked about. Whereas,
I was just saying one more thing to factor in the dynasty thing.
Hold on, let me just finish this thought about Seattle, because there was friction between like Russ and Richard Sherman, between the offense, the defense, between Marshawn not getting the ball in the handoff, and that Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. You don't hear any such friction about this Patriots team, and I think that helps too.
Chiefs team, I agree with you. Yeah, and I would say too that one of the things that I think encompasses a dynasty is the notion that this Chiefs team has effectively snuffed out anyone else from the AFC from winning Super Bowls. Tom Brady got one from the NFC side by beating the Chiefs. Joe Burrow got to the Super Bowl. Brady got to the Super Bowl and then lost to the Eagles, right? Wasn't that the one where they beat the Chiefs? Is that right? The D Ford season? Yeah, 2018. Patriots won the year before. Am I wrong there?
The Patriots, I think they won 26.
Oh, they beat the Rams. They beat the Rams. So we've got the Patriots beating the Rams. They got through the first year of Mahomes as a starter, right? It's like you better get yours now because you're not gonna have many opportunities. But Joe Burrow had a shot, but Josh Allen has basically been thwarted by the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson hasn't lost to the Chiefs every time, but it's very reminiscent of the Patriots in Tom Brady's peak when the Patriots were rolling in that. And the same thing with like Jordan's Bulls, where because that team was so good, it made it so that much more difficult for everybody else in the conference to try to find their way to a title.
Yeah, and that's
right.
It really feels like the other thing about the chemistry, though, is that it doesn't feel like there's nothing's broken yet. You don't hear any whispers about guys not being on the same page. Of course, sometimes we hear Kadarius Toney videos and whatnot. But besides that, that's not impacting anyone else on this team. They don't have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes don't have the Brady Belichick relationship. Mahomes doesn't have the Russell Wilson, everybody else on his team relationship. These guys just seem like they're on the right track to never win.
All right. Yeah, no kidding. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll answer a very important question. How close is Patrick Mahomes to catching Tom Brady? Mark this.
Caught by Kelsey for the touchdown. The 49ers are going back to the Super Bowl. The champs are still in it, headed to Vegas.
All right, boys. With another Super Bowl win, this was my storyline. What do we put the chances that Patrick Mahomes eventually breaks Tom Brady's record of 7 Lombardis? And just a little backstory here. Super Bowl appearances in a 5-year span. The Chiefs and the Patriots both have 4. Most Super Bowl starts by a quarterback all time. Tom Brady's at 10. No surprise there. Patrick Mahomes is at 4. And the most Super Bowl starts by QB before age 30. Patrick Mahomes is leading the pack already at 4. Tom Brady only had 3. Big Ben, Troy Aikman, Elway, and Greasy Bob, that is, also had 3. So, Breech, I'll come to you. You're the resident Pick 6 historian. If he gets to 4, Patrick Mahomes on Sunday, what are the chances? I guess he has to play till he's in his 40s, but what are the chances he gets close to that 7 that Tom Brady finished up with?
Well, it'll be his 3rd win if he wins on Sunday. So you get to 3, and you're not even 29 years old yet. That's what really blows my mind, is that you would have 3 Super Bowl wins before the age of 29. And that really makes it feel like it's possible. But even at that rate, if he plays till he's 40, he's basically got to win 1 Super Bowl every 3 years. And that blows my mind, because I don't think that's going to happen. He's going to slow down a little bit. You know, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. I don't think many people are going to play highly successful football into their 40s. I think Patrick Mahomes probably has another 10 years of great football before he starts just kind of slowing down a little. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff or anything. And so 7 Super Bowls, and the AFC, you're adding Jim Harbaugh. Just the AFC is so stacked with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I think he gets close. I think he ends with 5 or 6 Super Bowls, but I don't think he hits 7. Brinson, you think he hits 7? You think he gets 8 to beat him? I don't think he can beat him. I don't think he's getting 8.
So I think Prisco was talking about this. Yeah, Brady has 7, obviously. And let's not forget that the big one for Brady here, there's 2 trump cards. One, with that 7th, he went down to Tampa Bay and won it. Granted, pandemic year, but he won it. And he won MVP, right? At what, 45? Just ridiculous.
Beat Mahomes.
Yeah, and he did it without Belichick, and he beat Mahomes in that Super Bowl. Now, you can point out a lot of different reasons why the Chiefs lost that game, but the reality is Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes head-to-head in his final Super Bowl win. I don't think that this is technically correct, like sharp math, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. The Chiefs are 7-1 right now to win the Super Bowl next year in 2025. They're minus 105, plus 105 to win the Super Bowl in this year, obviously, because they're an underdog of 2 points the last time I checked. So I put it in 7-1, 7-1, 7-1, and plus 105, and that basically comes out to like a 1,048. Like $10 would win you $10,000. In other words, I don't think that math is right. I'm tired. We've been traveling. I've got some like old man health issues I'm dealing with. So who knows how accurate that is? The point being is, like, it's a huge long shot. And I think there's a pretty good chance that we end up in a situation where it could almost be Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders, where if anyone wants to argue for Emmitt, a.k.a. Tom Brady, that, you know, you're always going to have the stats and the overall numbers on your side, like the rings on your side. Be like, all right, like until you beat Brady's 7 rings, you don't have an argument. If he ties Brady, I think you do have an argument. And I still think even right now you could say that that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback we've ever seen play football, even if he's not the GOAT because of the ring count, depending on where he ends up.
Yeah. No, this is a tall task. And it's fun to sort of overreact and say Patrick Mahomes is going to be the guy to do it, but he has to play until his 40s, unless they're just going to win out and he's going to retire at age 35. And it's people want to do other things with life unless you're Tom Brady. So, and Tom Brady came to the decisions to do other things when he was in his mid-40s. So I think it feels like a long shot. I think that the Chiefs dynasty talk and Andy Reid, top 5, top 3 coaches, much more attainable. But let's talk about the truly important stuff. And Brinson, I'll let you go first. I don't know which one of you is a bigger Swiftie, nor do I care. But Taylor Swift's going to be a talking point this week. So why don't you take this conversation in whatever direction you want it to go in, other than any mention of her being a psyop?
Yeah. Right. There's a lot of people who think that she's going to come out after the Super Bowl and promptly endorse a one candidate or another of a political party, which would be quite the conspiracy theory come to life. My best guess is she jumps on her PJ, heads back to Japan, and continues doing her tour. She's here. And by the way, shout out to the article I saw come across the CBS News Desk thread, the NFL Stories thread. It was like, this one thing is Taylor Swift's biggest problem with getting to the Super Bowl. It's like, that's the biggest John Breech headline I've ever seen in my entire life. Sure enough, you click through and it's Breech. And I had to find out what it was. It's because it's her PJ parking coming from Tokyo. It's not the actual flight itself. It's where do you park your private jet? At any rate, I think this is a huge storyline. And like Travis Kelce, okay, you know what? I'm sick and tired of people complaining about too much Taylor Swift. She's the biggest pop star on the planet. She's interesting. She's got makes great music. She and Travis Kelce have a great relationship. It looks like authentic. And not to mention, you know, it's not like she, after the AFC Championship game, you know, Travis Kelce was looking for Jason Kelce, finds him, and she recedes in the background. She's not out here like trying to get headlines, but I think because it's the Super Bowl, because you're already getting a lot of casual fans being represented in the viewership, you're going to see much more Taylor Swift than we saw in the AFC Championship game when we showed her, we being CBS, showed her for like 44 seconds because they were trying to tamper down the what felt like, you know, some people overkill in the Swift stuff. Super Bowl is a different story. We show celebrities for every year, going to get a ton of Taylor Swift, and I think it's an awesome storyline.
And I'll just say real quick, I don't think you can go overboard with too much Taylor Swift coverage. If CBS said on Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to air a 1-hour documentary on how Taylor Swift got from Tokyo to Las Vegas, I would watch it. I would watch it. Like, it's fascinating. It's fun. I don't understand why people are against it. You know, though, Brinson, you mentioned an article real quick. I learned one thing, that her private jet doesn't have the range to fly from Tokyo to LA. So I do not think she will be on her private jet for that actual part of the flight, unless she's like stopping over in Hawaii and refueling and then picking up and landing in Vegas. So that's another twist to the whole situation.
By the way, Harry points out correctly, she did announce a new album tonight. The Grammys were we recorded this on Sunday night, and of course the Grammys on CBS. Hope you watched, like all good company men. She posted to Instagram about her new album. It had 600,000 likes within a minute. That's insane.
So did my post about breakfast this morning. 600,000 likes in a minute.
What'd you have?
Waffles. Delicious.
Waffles are better than pancakes.
I'm taking Wilson out to waffles tomorrow morning. He needs them.
Thanks, buddy.
You won't be awake.
All right, enough talk about waffles and pancakes. It's time for a segment where we're going to take a brief detour from Las Vegas to tight end U. George Kittle for the 49ers, Travis Kelce for the Chiefs. They're some of the best tight ends in the league, and we're going to tell you our favorite prop bets involving the two for the Super Bowl tight end showdown. It's tight end TV time. Will Brinson, what is your favorite tight end prop for Super Bowl 58?
For Super Bowl 58, I will take, as I peruse the hefty list of props available on FanDuel, sportsbook.fanduel.com, Christian McCaffrey minus 220 to score a touchdown, anytime touchdown. That's an outrageous number. But Travis Kelce is even money at plus 100. I think that's a good bet. We've seen the 49ers have linebackers that could potentially cover him, but Travis Kelce might just be uncoverable. And I think Kelce's flipped the switch, as I suggested he might, over the last 2 weeks in the playoffs. He's been a dominant player, and he knows he's got 60 minutes to try and win another Super Bowl. I think he goes out there and scores at least one touchdown. Love even money there.
Ooh.
John Breech, what do you got?
I'm going to go the other team and take George Kittle over 47.5 receiving yards. Although, you know what? I think I'm just switching it live right now to anytime touchdown. I think I'll take George Kittle anytime touchdown, not Travis Kelce. Brinson talked me into it, and my reasoning is that the Chiefs gave up 9 touchdowns this season to tight ends, which was tied for the 5th most in the NFL. So I think the 49ers will struggle to throw the ball on the Chiefs because 2nd most sacks. I think they give up the fourth fewest passing yards. But I think Brock Purdy can find George Kittle for a touchdown.
All right. I'm going to keep it simple. You guys should talk about Taylor Swift and how she'll come see her boyfriend play. Maybe there's going to be an engagement after the game at midfield on one knee. Should the Chiefs win, we'll find out together. I'm going to go anytime. I'm going to go Travis Kelce MVP. Like he's forget that. He's going to score more than one touchdown. He may He'll catch one. He may run one. Maybe he throws one. Maybe he kicks an extra point. Breech, we'll see. But I'm going to go Travis Kelce, MVP. Breech, when's the last time an MVP was a tight end?
I would believe the answer is never.
Yep.
Never. So there you go.
17-1 for 17-1 for Kelce, which is not terrible. Yeah. And Mahomes has won MVP a lot, so you could see it possibly going to it's not outrageous. Mahomes, by the way, plus 135 for MVP.
You can walk down to the sports book at our hotel and go ahead and place these bets after the podcast.
All right, boys. This segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. All right, I'm going to get back to these storylines. And this one seems like one that's going to be a pretty important one that we'll hear a lot about. I know Brinson's been on this train. He was on this train last week, stealing a line from Pete Prisco before the Lions game. Pete thought the Lions might beat the 49ers. I actually thought they might too. It looked like they're going to after the first 30 minutes. And then the last 30 minutes happened. Brinson, if you block them, you beat them. And, of course, we're talking about how good all the skill position players they have for the 49ers. The offensive line, starting with Trent Williams, is really good. But this Chiefs defense, probably going to be one of the best defenses they faced all year.
Yeah, and I think the issue for the 49ers is, can they slow down the Chiefs offense? And we saw both the Packers and the Lions put up points against San Francisco by blocking really well up front. And the Chiefs' one Super Bowl loss is to the Buccaneers. It was when they were missing their two tackles. They went out and spent immediately to go out and get Joe Thuney. They just had no protection for Patrick Mahomes in that COVID Super Bowl. And so I think Thuney will be back. Be interested to hear what Kyle Long has to say all week long on tops, because Kyle Long, friend of the pod, did an interview with the Chiefs offensive line. If Thuney can play, then and the tackles hold up, this team can block the 49ers front four. And if they do that, they can attack them in the secondary. And that's how you end up with the Chiefs scoring a ton of points. If you can block them, you can beat them. Pete's been right about it so far. And the Packers and the Lions had their chances. If you let Patrick Mahomes' team block you, he will make you pay. He will win that game.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Preacher? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add real quick that if they fall behind 24-7 to the Chiefs, they're not coming back and winning.
Well, let's think about it this way. Brock Purdy was in the MVP conversation for quite a while, as was Christian McCaffrey. But does anyone disagree that a healthy Deebo Samuel is the most important person on that offense?
I would agree with that.
That's my only concern. Because I think Kyle Shanahan said this actually after the Lions game. Like, they had a lot of things heavily geared towards getting Deebo the ball when Deebo got hurt early on, and that was a concern. Or the game before that, excuse me. And that was a concern in terms of how things played out. So if he's out there, he's getting the ball. And we just saw him overcome 17-point lead, Breech. So you still think that could be the case?
Against the Lions? I mean, against a team that choked away the entire game in the second half, I just don't see the Chiefs doing that. And also, if the Chiefs put up 24 points on you that quickly, or you're down 24-7, that means their offense is rolling. And they're just, I am not concerned about Patrick Mahomes blowing a 17-point lead. And of course, we can clip this and send it to Old Takes Exposed if I end up being wrong. But I would be absolutely stunned if the Chiefs blew a 17-point lead in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have two more storylines to hit, and we'll hit them right after this.
For me to be able to say that I became a world champion, that's something that you remember forever.
All right, boys. 6 down, 2 to go. Tight end talk. We sort of touched on it when we mentioned the tight end prop bets we liked. Brinson, let's start here. Who's the best tight end on the field Sunday?
I love George Kittle, but it's Travis Kelce. It's not close.
Oh, wait. It's not close?
I don't think it's particularly. I mean, Travis Kelce is probably the greatest tight end of all time. Gronk, maybe. You could argue. I mean, I'd be fine if you took Gronk over Kelce, but
Tony Gonzalez.
Gonzalez is up there. I think Travis Kelce's Gonzalez is great. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, surefire Hall of Famer. I think Kelce's the best pass catching tight end of all time, and I think it speaks volumes when you trade Tyreek Hill. You pick up a bunch of picks from the Dolphins. You improve your defense, and Travis Kelce's just chugging along. He had a down year in the regular season, but I think he's a surefire Hall of Famer. I love Kittle. Kittle. both guys are more effective and more important to their own unique offenses than they would be if you flipped them, I think. Kelsey, because of his freelancing style with Mahomes, how he is able to do anything on the field, catch any pass, his threat in the red zone. And then Kittle, because of his blocking skill set, he's able to really help facilitate. He's the fulcrum point for this Kyle Shanahan offense because, you want to run the play action stuff off of the running. You want to have similar looking plays, and Kittle can block, and then release on those play action stuff, situations where they roll guys out, and it's so deadly.
One thing that blows my mind about the fact that Kittle's played so well this year, I do agree with Brinson that Travis Kelce is the better tight end, and as Brinson said, he's a historically great tight end. But when you look at just talk about the 2023 season, George Kittle had more receiving yards than Travis Kelce, which is kind of mind-blowing because you look at the 49ers offense and you have the NFL's leading rusher in Christian McCaffrey. You have Deebo Samuel. You have Brandon Ayuk. You have all these weapons, and somehow George Kittle finished with over 1,000 receiving yards. And so he's someone that Brock Purdy trusts and that Brock Purdy is going to go to when he's in trouble. But, Kittle is a weapon in the 49ers offense. Travis Kelce is the weapon in the Chiefs offense, and that's it. That's Mahomes' guy. As Brinson said, they're on the same page all the time. Travis Kelce, half the time, runs whatever route he wants. Mahomes doesn't even know what he's going to do until he does it, and they still connect. I mean, he was talking about how Travis Kelce ran the wrong route and one of the touchdowns in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter because if he gets open, Patrick Mahomes is going to find him, and that's a connection that you don't see very often. It doesn't work all the time, but it does for these two, and that's what blows my mind about it. So yeah, I would take Travis Kelce over George Kittle.
I would take Kyle Juszczyk, but that's because he's more versatile and went to an Ivy League school. But that's just me. All right,
and his wife is a fantastic fashion designer.
Yeah, she makes jackets and hoodies and whatever else you want, custom made. All right, talk about the sort of connection with Kelsey and Mahomes. Breech, that dovetails nicely into our final storyline. And Breech, I'll ask you first. Do you trust Brock Purdy? Because is there any way he can out Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage, even though Brock Purdy has been up to every test so far?
Yeah, the thing is, he has been up to every test, but he's looked a little shaky in the playoffs. And look, game-winning drive against the Packers, he looked awesome. He looked awesome at times against the Lions, but there's just this shakiness that has been there that I can't shake. I mean, we saw the first half against the Packers where he didn't look good at all. And so this is going to be the best defense he has faced in the postseason, and it's not even close. And every time we've seen him go up against a good defense from the AFC, he struggled. We saw him struggle against the Browns. We saw him struggle against the Ravens.
Didn't struggle against the Steelers.
I guess that's true. We saw him struggle against the Bengals. So it does worry me a little bit that now that he's going up against a Chiefs defense that had the second most sacks in the NFL, that has been really good at stopping the pass. You have a bunch of guys up front that can put pressure on the quarterback. And I think that could be trouble. I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes at all. I think I think most people would agree that they would take Patrick Mahomes if you have to pick one quarterback here and who's going to play the better game. But is it an absolute mismatch, or are they going to be close? What do you think, Brinson?
I think the Purdy thing is fascinating. He's been really clutch the last 2 weeks and stepped up in big moments in a big way. And that goes a long way for me. This is still Mr. Irrelevant from last year. And we're treating him as if he's like, not that he hasn't arrived, but just he's being treated as like, okay, well, you just have to go beat maybe the greatest quarterback of all time in the Super Bowl in year two as a starter after being the last pick in the draft. And I think that speaks a lot to his development, that he's being given the sort of the treatment that he's getting. I think I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that the Niners defense could come to play, could pressure Patrick Mahomes, and that Brock Purdy could have the same game that Jimmy Garoppolo had. The question is, will he connect on the deep shots that Jimmy missed, that one shot to Emmanuel Sanders that wins the game for the 49ers 4 years ago? I think I'd trust Brock Purdy to hit on the deep shot. So if the 49ers defense comes to play, slows down Kansas City enough, I trust Brock Purdy to win this game if he has to. But certainly if he starts out shaky, there's going to be questions.
I think. Yeah.
I just want to throw in, because Brinson mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo's career record with the 49ers going into Super Bowl 54, 21-5. Brock Purdy's career record with the 49ers going into Super Bowl 58, 21-5.
Wow.
Are they the same
I'm
guy?
glad you mentioned that because, well, that's what I was going to say. That's what's going to follow up with Brinson's point. Does anyone think that Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy?
No.
At any point in Jimmy G's journey, like even when he was just pretty well running that Shanahan offense, I feel like I was actually thinking about this when you guys were talking. If you're Kyle Shanahan and you could have Brock Purdy start this game, or you could trade for Patrick Mahomes but only have 2 weeks to prepare with Patrick Mahomes, is he taking? I don't know. Brock Purdy runs that offense as efficiently as we've seen anyone run it since I don't know when. Like who's the last quarterback that Kyle Shanahan's had that's run this efficiently?
I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo probably. And then Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan. 2016. Yeah.
Matt Ryan's the answer. So I think, Breech, are you taking Patrick Mahomes 2 weeks' notice?
I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't even know if Kyle Shanahan would want to do that, though. If that is the
that's
question,
what I'm saying.
Because
right, that's what I'm saying.
He is so nitpicky about how his offense is run, and he wants things done. He wants things done his way.
If he could trade for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get Brock Purdy and have to start him on 2 weeks, he's going to do that.
No, that's not that wasn't the.
No, how about Patrick Mahomes stays with the Chiefs and Kyle Shanahan can get Josh Allen, so he can either have Josh Allen on 2 weeks' notice or Brock Purdy.
Right.
Then what?
I'm taking Brock.
I still think it's Josh Allen, but I get the point. Like you want somebody who you know can run the offense. So Purdy would definitely like. I understand what you're saying, and it makes total sense. I still think you're taking the quarterback with the crazy upside.
I'm smelling a pick six poll question.
Yeah, throw Jake Browning's name in there too, because I'm sure he was the next on your list. All right, boys, that is it. We are done for the Storyline show here on Sunday night, but we will be back all week in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58. Tomorrow, we're going to give you our impressions from opening night. We will be there live and in person, along with Christina Anderson, of course, the other super friend, Katie Mox. So look for that on the old YouTube page. We'll post the best clips for the pressers. And one last reminder to show us some love with a like or a comment. Hit subscribe to our YouTube page for everyone listening to the audio version. Make sure you download, follow, leave a 5-star review, and tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. We'll see you guys tomorrow.